What's going on, everyone? I am Torvald Uruz, and this is the Ranked Crystal Arena in Albion Online. Now, people like to ask, why instanced arena PvP in a full loot open world sandbox MMORPG? In my opinion, there are two good reasons for this. One, it's quick, fun, easily accessible PvP that you can do from anywhere. And two, it allows you to learn PvP in a risk-free environment. I like to experiment with different builds, and the arena is a nice, easy way to do that. Now, obviously, there are differences between the arena and open world PvP, but it can help you become a better PvPer. Also, you get fame books whether you win or lose in the arena. So what I like to do is get a bunch of these books and use those fame books on something that I'm not skilled into yet. It's not as efficient as going out to the black zone and doing some mobs out there, but it's something. Now, there are two extremely important concepts in the arena. One, bring stuff to swap out weapons and armor. And two, self-awareness. Now, there's no single build or setup that will guarantee you winning. It all depends on the composition of both teams. It is vitally important that you bring a swap of gear, that way you can adjust to whatever the enemy's doing. I have a couple different sets that I like to use in the arena, and I will oftentimes switch out depending on what's going on in the match. This is important if you actually want to win and care about getting rank. And self-awareness ties into this. It will go a long ways in rank. I guess my best example of a complete lack of self-awareness that I see oftentimes in the arena is when you have that one person who's going off to split capture on their own and they just constantly die. They don't have that awareness to realize that they can't win 1v1s and we need them in the team. So just having that self-awareness of where you are, where your team's at, where your healer's at, what's going on, and if you need to swap or not. Or another example, when you've got that one DPS who's way far away from the healer trying to do whatever, be a hero, be solo, and they die and they blame healer even though they were nowhere near the healer and running away from them. Yeah, that's a complete lack of self-awareness. Now, I'll go into some builds that I like to use, but honestly, just go with whatever you want to use. Experiment, try different things out, and as always, bring a swap or two. I'm pretty experienced with over 2,000 arena matches played, and I'm currently sitting at Gold 2 in the top 0.3% of players. With all of that experience and all of those wins, I still do not have a go-to set for the arena. I currently have about 5 different sets that I swap between depending on what's going on in the game and what I feel like playing. The two sets I'm going to show you here is my Demonic Staff and Carving Sword builds. Now, this first set, the Demonic Staff, is probably my favorite build. This is all about damage over time and crowd control. Not only do I do quite a bit of damage with this, but I'm also really good at keeping stuff off of myself or the healer. For the Demonic Staff, I will use Curse Sickle. That, along with the Carleone's Cape, will allow me to apply a bunch of damage over time, vile curses, to all the people it passes through. For W, I will typically use Desecrate, because I like being able to root people along with applying an extra charge of Vile Curse. However, sometimes I will use Armor Piercer, depending on what's going on in the arena. Armor Piercer does a good bit of damage and reduces your enemy's damage resistance. And then obviously the E is really nice to use. It does a decent bit of damage, but the big one here is the Fear. It's a really good crowd control. If there's a bunch of enemies on your healer, you can get them off, or if you just want to make everyone run away, that works. I like to really focus on helping out the healer because typically they're getting piled on, so a good E into a pile of enemies will give your healer a little bit of relief. Now for my helmet, I like to use Scholar Cowl. This is another good one for crowd control. If there's a bunch of enemies on you or on the healer, you can run in them and hit Force Field and basically throw them off. For my armor, I like the Face Scale Robe. This has a lot of different applications. My favorite application is the first effect, the Ring of Fire. It's another good crowd control effect that'll get enemies off of you, off the healer, and send them fleeing. Now for my shoes, I went with Sandals of Purity. The main reason being is because the energetic sprint. Oftentimes in these prolonged fights, I run into energy issues, so I like having this to basically refill my energy. And if you need to get into or run away from a fight really fast. And as I mentioned before, I like to use the Carleone's Cape. The effect of this is really nice because every 30 seconds I get to shoot 2 cursed boomerangs at the bad guys. Now for my Carving Sword setup. This one I've only started using recently. I really like its tankiness and damage. I'm not a big fan of being a squishy frontline brawler or melee user, so I like this setup because it allows me to sustain a little bit longer than typical setups. For the carving swords Q, I like to use Heroic Strike. It only hits one target, but you dash towards that target. A lot of times I find myself struggling with chasing targets down as a melee user, so this gives me that little bit of a dash. And once you hit them with it, you get a heroic charge, which increases your move speed, allowing you to hit them more. For my W, I like to use Splitting Slash. This is a crowd control method used to root targets in place. Just if I have to chase someone down, it's nice to kind of stop them from a distance. I find the E very helpful in arenas because not only does it do a good amount of damage, but you also decrease the damage resistance of everybody you pass through. Less damage resistance means you and everybody else hitting that target is doing more damage to that target. And then for the passive, I like using the heroic fighting just because every 4 hits you get 1 heroic charge, which increases your move speed and your auto attack speed. For the helmet, I went a little bit tanky with the Guardian's helmet. I like using the D2 on this one, which increases your defense by 33.33%. This is nice to pop with the Hellions jacket when you jump into a big cluster of enemies. You're taking a lot of damage. This will give you a little bit more survivability while also getting the heals from the Hellion jacket. My favorite thing about this build is the fact that I'm a little bit more tanky than normal. Now, obviously, like I said, with the Hellion jacket, I am using the Lifesteal aura. This is nice when you're getting low health. You pop your helmet's defensive, and then you also pop this, increases your defense, gets you some health back, make you live a little bit longer, which means you're doing more damage. And then the shoes, I went with Sandals of Purity. I kind of go back and forth with this one. I like being able to run fast and get some energy back, so this is a nice one to have, but you can change that around if you want. And then, of course, since I'm going with the tanky build, I went with the Martlock Cape. This one increases your defense when you fall below 25% health. So when things are getting heated up, you're in the middle of the fray, you pop your helmet's defensive, you pop your Hellion jacket, and this gives you a little bit more survivability. Like I said earlier, there are a ton of different builds. There's no one build beats all, so really it's up to you. The best thing you can do to guarantee yourself a win and climb the ranked ladder is to group up with other people. I'm currently doing arena on hard mode. I have this little goal of reaching Crystal by myself solo. It's really hard to do and it's extremely frustrating sometimes, but it's something that I want to try for and I'm getting close to it. If you really want to win and be competitive, you've got to have a 5-man team going. I've played a lot of arenas, I've seen a lot of 5-man teams, and I've never seen a 5-man team lose a game. If you have not done arenas, give them a shot. They're a ton of fun, the rewards are pretty good, and if you've got a competitive spirit, this is for you. Currently, I'm sitting at Gold 2 and I have 67 days left to make it up to Crystal by myself. Hopefully this video has helped. Good luck to you, and I'll see you in the arena.